Hello traders, Rich here and welcome to a new episode on how to analyze any chart from scratch without using any indicators, just by applying basic price action concepts and market structure 101. So let's get started, and as usual, cheers. Today we have episode number 19, which is a Forex pair GBP/CHF. And for those who aren't familiar with the series, don't worry, I'll attach the entire playlist, which includes all the videos by order, in the description below. So enjoy it. And for those who are watching this video, let's do it. For those who already know, we always start from the higher time frames, weekly and daily, to know where we currently stand in the market. Half of the work is done here, because once you know where you are in the market, you can then know what to look for, a buy or a sell. So for example, if you are overall bullish, we'll be looking for buy setups around the lower band or non-horizontal support, and of course, sell setups around the upper band where the price is overbought, and vice versa in case of a falling channel or wedge, looking for buy stops around the lower bound and sell setups around the upper bound, and of course the classic one, which is the classic range, buy and sell until eventually the range is broken upward or downward. So let's do just that on GBP/CHF, and we start from weekly time frame. The first step is we draw horizontal support and resistance, then we draw our non-horizontal ones. Last but not least, we go for supply and demand zones. So let's start by support and resistance. And for those who already know from the previous 18 episodes, that we draw a random on our chart and drag and drop it in a way to connect as many swings as possible. And we want big swings. So like this is not a swing, right? So this is the entire swing from here to here. And of course, this is also a good one. So this is the entire swing, and this is not like minor swings. Okay, so we always go for the major ones. So one more example. Okay, so here's the full swing, while these are the small ones. Okay, so let's zoom out to the max, and anyway, the price is currently here, so it doesn't really matter if we draw these ones or not. But anyway, let's do it to have a practical example. And as mentioned previously, it would be great if you pause this video, draw it on your chart, and then compare it to mine. It would be a good practical example. Do the same for daily, H4, and so on. So like now for our from weekly, pause it, and then watch it again to compare. And then when I go to daily, also pause it, and so on. So we drag and drop it. We can see we can only connect one here, but we can keep it as it is the all-time high. Anyway, let's move forward. We've got a very, very strong one here. Many rejections from it. I personally go for 3. Some traders go for 2 main rejections, but I personally always go for 3 for extra confirmation. So for example, we've got around 2.55. I always like to optimize it to be around number 2. I like to check the numbers here and see that it's a full number. And of course, round numbers are also psychological levels that the price tend to respect more than a random number. So 2.55, as you can see, is respected more than 2.58294, right? Anyway, it's an entire zone at a laser level. So you only go for strong round numbers, like 2, for example. This is a very strong round number, and we've got the 1, which is here that the price didn't reach yet, and so on. So we've got 1 here around 2.55. Let's do it again real quick. Then if we continue, we can see that we can also draw this one. It's not that strong. We continue. We can't see much, right? We don't see main rejections. Here we go. We've got a clean one here, a big swing. So impulse, correction, another impulse. So this is a major swing. Then we've got this one, impulse, correction, impulse, correction. So it's a full correction swing. Then the price broke it downward. It's acting now as a support. And anyway, it's a falling trend, low lows and lower highs, very, very classic. And price broke above the previous high, impulse, correction, and so on. Then price broke above the previous low, and here we go. Anyway, now let's focus on support and resistance. This is a very, very strong one. It was acting as a support previously, then price broke it downward. It's acting as a resistance now. So 1, 2, and 3. Here we go. Of course, it's an entire zone, just like the previous one. So if you would like, you can draw it as 2 laser levels, just like this, to cover the entire swings. So the lower one is also connecting not only these swings, but also this, and also this, and here we go, right? So this is an entire support area. In this case, it's a resistance area since price broke it down. So as price approaches it, maybe after a couple of years, we'll be looking for sell setups. So let's continue really quick since it's very, very far from the current price. Okay, we've got one here, rejection, second and third, right? So it's a full big swing. It was acting as a support previously, and price broke it down, right? And resistance here, support here. Anyway, let's move. And it's like the round number 0.2 and to 2.1, I guess, like deltas. So this is the entire area, but I'll keep it this way since it's far from the current price. I can see only 2 rejections here, so it's not a very strong one. So let's skip it. Of course, we don't have anything here, just like aggressive movements upward and downward. Okay, here we go. Now things are getting interesting. I'll zoom in because we don't have any data on the left. So here we go. This is actually a very, very strong one. Rejections 2 and 3, and of course we also have this was acting as a support previously, and it's an entire zone as usual. So let's do like 1.57. Of course, it doesn't really matter how you like the exact point you draw it because it's an entire zone. So you can just go for this, right? So this is the resistance zone. So price can dive inside it before going down, but as long as the price is inside this resistance, as you can see, price rejected it here, here, and here as well. Okay. But let's draw it as a laser level to keep the chart as clean as possible, but also make an offset for it, which is here to cover these ones, right? And also to cover the entire rejection before the fall happened, right? So this is the entire range and so on. But as mentioned before, it doesn't really matter the exact point that you draw it. Let me make it 52. I guess it would be great. Here we go, right? So there's an entire zone from weekly time frame. Of course, now we zoom into daily time frame to do the same. But for now, let's zoom in a little bit more because we don't have any data here. So if we drag and drop it like this, we can we try to connect as many swings as possible. So we can draw this one, 1, 2. I see very small ones here, also one here, and so it's not like the strongest one, but since we have these ones, 1 and 2, it's now considered a good one. So the reason why we drew this one is because we have 1, 2, and here we go, 3 and even 4. Also, it's an entire zone. So, but I'll keep it as a laser level for now because we want to focus on these ones here. I'll zoom in a little bit more, and for now, let's go for this one. Let me check it out. Here we go, 1, 2, and 3. So we've got a support here, here, and here as well. And as you can see, this upper one and lower one are covering the entire rejections here, 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 and this is it, right? So this is also just like the upper one, it's also a big zone. So make this one lower, make this one a little bit higher. This is it, right? And if you make it a little bit lower, we can also like come very close to this one. So I'll keep it this way. Since we have blue here, I'll go for green for this particular one. Here we go, right? Next, since we don't have anything to mention here, let's zoom in a little bit more. That's why I like you keep your chart as clean as possible. And let's go, of course, we have this one here, which is the all-time low, right? At least for this ticker, for this particular chart. So 1.1, and you know what? I'll do it as a zone. And 1.3. So this is the entire all-time low, and it's also a demand zone which is still fresh. We also have a demand zone here which is still fresh. Anyway, we'll go for supply and demand zones in a bit. But for now, let's draw our support and resistance. Okay, so I can see one here, right? Many rejections from it here, here, and here as well. And of course, as usual, it's an entire zone. So let's go for 1.3, I guess, and 1.35, maybe to cover these ones, right? You can see it, I guess, very clearly. Here we go. So green, let's go for blue. Perfect. Let's continue. We don't have, it's a choppy market around this area. Anyway, we might see it better from daily time frame because we've got rejections here, 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 but it is still visible on weekly. You know what? Let's zoom in to refine it next on daily time frame. So I'll make it in orange, just like we did previously in the previous episode, if you remember. Next, anyway, I drew a typical one, a strong one, which is around 1.22, I guess. Here we go, right? And I'll make this one in, since we have blue. I don't know about this one, but for now it's, you know what, maybe this one would be in orange and green. So I'll go for blue for this one too. And as you can see, it's actually a very strong support and resistance. Previously got alongside this range, broke it upward, now retesting it. And it's also, if you zoom in, this area is also a demand area. And of course, this support is an entire support, so to cover the entire rejections. Okay, but I'll keep it as a laser level for now, of course. And we still have one more, which is obviously around 1.165. Here we go. Let's go for, you know what? Let's go for blue here because we have green here. So that's it, I guess, for GBP CHF. And so how support and resistance, and you can see it even better when we zoom in. We can see that we've got this support resistance here for now, support resistance, and we have like a small fake out here. And it's also what? It's also a supply zone that the price respected here, filled it, and then traded lower. Of course, supply and demand zones are not bulletproof, are not foolproof. So for example, here we've got a very strong supply zone, but the price didn't respect it at all, kept trading higher, like we don't have any rejections. Okay, so don't like go blindly for supply and demand zones. For example, we had a demand zone here, but the price like rejected it just a little bit and then traded lower again. But price respected this demand, right? Respected it very well, actually. The supply, as mentioned previously. And so for now, these are all filled, right? We will always go for fresh one. And of course, we've got a very, very strong one here that the price respected here. This one is a rally base, sorry, drop, base, and then a drop again. While here, we've got a rally, base, and then a rally again. So we've got an entire support area. And you know what? Let's do a small offset for it, 21. So we know that this is also a demand zone. So price can still dive a little bit to test the demand before going upward. So for now, what we know just from weekly, this is the importance of starting from the weekly time frame to know what to look for, and then we zoom into our time frames to look for buy or sell. For now, what we know just from weekly is that we are around a support that was acting as a resistance previously, broken upward. Now it's acting as a support area, which is also a demand area. That's why we are looking for buy setups in the first place. Right, so this is actually it for supply and demand zones, because I went through supply and demand zones just now. And let's take a break. Last but not least, let's go for trend lines. Of course, we want to draw trend lines which engulfs the overall movement. So we can start from the zoomed out picture and then zoom in, just like we did with support and resistance. So for the zoomed out picture, I can see, so you have to go for the outer ones, for the ones that, just like support and resistance, holding the price up or down. So I can see a very, very strong one, which is showing us the overall direction, which is obviously this one, right? So, and of course, we also have this one and so on. So trend lines are like non-horizontal support and resistance. So we've got two, we've got this, and we've got this. And the good thing about trend lines is they act as, or they make a horizontal support even stronger. So we've got a resistance here, but we can't really know where the price might test it. It can go like this and test it. It can go straight up from here. But we know that this is, if this happens, if the price went up and retest this particular area, it would be a very, very strong area, because it's the intersection of two rejections, which is the horizontal resistance and the non-horizontal resistance. So let's keep these in brown as usual. Of course, when you zoom out, you can see that it's getting choppier, but when you zoom in, you can see things clearer. And of course, we always try to make an offset for it to cover the entire movement. You know what? I'll delete this one for now. Here we go, to make the chart as clean as possible. And since the lower one like engulfs the overall movement better. So we've got this impulse, correction, impulse, and now price failed to test the upper bound, rejected this supply and resistance, traded lower, rejected the lower bound, and we are currently sitting midway inside the supply and resistance. Now, if we zoom in, we can also draw another trend line, which is, as mentioned previously, zoom in to get a better feeling, about the shorter term, and shorter term perspective. So here we go, and we can always make an offset for it. So it would be like this channel, right? So the price is impulse trading inside this channel, impulse correction, or vice versa, impulse correction. And we are currently in this movement downward. However, the price is currently approaching a support. So that's how you make more sense of the chart. So we know that we might have this movement to the downside to around this support or even this support, but for price to trade lower to test this one or this one, it will need to break this support now. Okay, so price can still trade higher from here before going downward. Okay, that's the power of starting from zoomed out to zoom in. And of course, we'll do the same on daily, but I doubt that we would be able to add any more info from daily, because as I always say, when you gather so many info from weekly, chances are you don't find any new piece of information to add from daily, which makes total sense because we already know where we are in the market. Now, we also have a shorter term one. Anyway, let's make this one appear on daily. Fantastic. So if we go to daily, we have a shorter term one, which is, okay, I don't know why these ones are not appearing on daily. Oops. Okay, you know what? I'll just do the very close ones. Okay, I won't do it all. Okay, so this is it, enough, and also this, and the lower green one right here. Okay, this is it. Now, if you zoom into daily time frame, and for this particular one, I'll be using the color. We have brown here. I'll go for green because we don't have green inside this entire area, right? Yeah. So we also have this one, which I was going to draw from weekly time frame. Here we go, which is the shorter term one, but it looks better on daily time frame. Of course, we make an offset for it. So the price is currently trading inside this area. So if we zoom out, here we go. We've got this movement, and inside this last leg, we also have multiple swings inside it. So it's like the major move and the minor ones inside the major move. Now, let's go back to daily time frame. We know that GBP/CHF is trading inside this channel, approaching and you can see it even better from daily time frame, right? And this one that we drew from weekly, that it is a potential one. We can see that the price respected it multiple times here and here, of course, that entire zone. And lately, price broke it downward, right? Broke it downward, which is this entire support, classic retest, and then traded lower again. So we are bearish, price broke the support, retested it, and we could look for sell setups. So long story short, GBP/CHF is approaching a very strong support area. It's also a demand area. It's also this lower bound, which is acting as an oversold area. That's why we are looking for buy setups in the first place, knowing that two things. The first one is GBP/CHF can still dive inside it before trading higher. One. Two, can still break it downward for it to become a resistance. In this case, we'll be looking for sell setups. Okay, so we always have an open mind that when the conditions change, like when conditions change, you always have to be flexible. And for example, if this broken downward with multiple daily candles breaking it like this, in this case, it would no longer be acting as a support. Instead, it will be acting as a resistance, and we will be looking for sell setups on the retest. But long story short, let's take it step by step. Around the support, demand, lower trend line, while looking for buy setups. Of course, unless broken downward, then a movement till this support. If broken downward, then this would be the lowest support, which is intersection of this brown trend line. Now, if we zoom into H4, we can also draw a shorter term one. You can see that we've got many, right? So we've got the green, the one in brown, and now let's go for this one and draw it in red, right? Here we go. This is it. So price, and as mentioned previously, look how strong this area is. Can still have a little bit downward. It would be even stronger. It would be even more oversold. It tests the lower band, which is responsible of these rejections. So we can still go down, and then we might have the movement up. Of course, we'll be looking for buy setups on lower time frames, H1 and M30, to catch this correction movement, which is upward. But we wouldn't be looking for sell setups here because we've got a very strong support. We're only interested in looking for sell setups if price tests this resistance here. Let's make this one like this and make this one in blue. This is how you put the puzzle together, as you can clearly see. Very strong support, looking for buy and not looking for sell, even though we know that price might reject it. Instead, I'd be looking for this scenario, and then I'm looking for buy on the last swing high break upward. So we are speculating this impulse correction. The buyers will take over. We wait for a break above this high, and then we can catch this movement upward. Then around this area, we'll be looking for sell setups again and again, buy setups, and so on. Okay. You know what? Let's do it one more time. Long story short, we'll be looking for buy setups on lower time frames to catch this, and then for this, and then looking for sell here. Let's zoom in more. Let's zoom into H1 time frame. Here we go. I don't want to see this on H1. Fantastic. If we zoom in, we can see that this major lag, which we saw from H4, so we've got this impulse movement, very, very big, but inside it, as I always say, we've got multiple swings, right? So this is the big impulse, big correction, big impulse. Inside it, just like previously, we have multiple swings. If you zoom in, we can see it even better. So impulse, correction, impulse, correction, impulse, and then we can see that the sellers are exhausted. They failed. And at least for now, of course, price can still trade lower for another deeper impulse till where? Till around this area, and as mentioned previously, which would be even a stronger support area. But for now, we can see that, and as I always say, trading is reactive and not predictive. So don't try to predict that the price would go from here. Even though we have a support area, we don't buy blindly, right? So like whoever bought exactly here, like around the support, like price is now going lower, and it will most probably in this particular case, of course, sometimes the price would trade a higher straight higher. In this particular case, like we can see that most probably it will kick them out. So impulse correction, we are currently stuck inside this range. So what we do is we draw our upper bound and lower bound of this particular range. Of course, we can make this one a little bit higher like this. Here we go. So now, if price goes from here upward and then break the zone upward, then we can look for buy. Of course, you can always go for extra confirmation by waiting for a break above the previous swings, just like here, for example. And I posted this one on TradingView, this picture analysis, that I'm waiting for this to happen. Meanwhile, until the buyers manage to break above this particular area, GPSHF would be overall bearish, can still trade a little bit lower till this area before going upward. In this case, if this happens, then we'll be drawing a new trend line, for example, like this. And let me make it this one in orange just for us to see it. In this case, if this happens, then we'll be waiting for this scenario, and then we'll be buying on spike upward because it is a very strong support area. But for now, since price is still here, if price goes up, then we'll be buying on spike upward. And of course, when the buy is activated, the stop loss would be just below the previous swing low, and we target a 1-to-2 risk to reward ratio, which would be where, which would be around the upper Here we go, which would be around the upper red trend line. So impulse correction, impulse, we're speculating a correction from here. And since it's around a support and oversold, this is why we are looking to catch this movement upward. Meanwhile, it would be bearish and can still trade lower. In this case, we'll be looking for new buy setups to fall. That's it for GBP SHF. Let me know if you paused the video and you applied the same techniques on your charts, and if there are any differences or not. And of course, as usual, let me know what's the instrument that you would like me to analyze next. No matter what it is, you can apply the same logic, no matter if it's a stock, crypto, index, and so on. And I'll see you on the next episode, episode number 20.